This month I thought we'd take a look at multi-material 3D printing. At the end of last year and most of this year, there have been a lot of developments with multi-material units, the two main hobby units being the Mosaic Palette 2 and the Prusa MMU2. But you haven't heard a lot about them recently, not as much as we have in the past. So I thought we'd take a look at both units. I'll give you some of the opinions on why that might be and where we might be going with multi-material. So let's start and just take a general overview of these systems. So this is the Palette 2 from Mosaic. And on first look, this is a really fancy piece of machinery. There's a lot of design work that went into this. There's 5 stepper motors, 4 extruder drives, micro switches, a cutting tool, and a splice core. That's the most important part. So basically, it's taking 4 filaments from the front, pulling it in, cutting them and splicing them on the fly, and then loading them into this buffer to get ready to exit to start printing. Mosaic has this process with pings and pongs that tries to determine the length of filament you're going to need for a print, and it's all determined in their software in Canvas. And in my opinion, Canvas is probably one of the spots where the palette is lacking. The software isn't really ready for prime time as of yet. And here's a look at some filament that's actually been spliced on the fly. This is what you can expect the splice to look like after it's came through the palette. These are designed to work with any 3D printer after a calibration has been done, and that calibration can be rather tricky. It took me many tries to get it correct. And depending on the filament that you're using, any one of these paths is really prone to jamming, especially breaking inside the buffer. If your filament is too dry at all, it will break on around this curve, and then you have to pull this whole thing apart and dig it out. I've had this thing apart so many times, I've actually stripped some of the brass bushings where these thumb screws go in. And the thumb screws only grip about 2 threads, and they're extremely fine threads, so the ends of them strip easily. I've actually had to resort to some 3mm screws on the splice core area just to keep it all together. So that part wasn't very well thought out. It does have a really nice touchscreen interface that you can use, so that is a plus. But the price tag is also a little high. These are somewhere around $600. They do have a Palette Pro version that's available, but I don't know much about that one. The palette is a really cool idea in theory. When you think about how it executes and splices filament, that sounds amazing. But on execution, not so much. Then we have the Prusa MMU2 unit. This is from the back of the unit. You take 5 filaments into the back, there's an extruder gear for each one, and then a selector picks it up and drives it to the extruder on the printer. And this unit actually works pretty well for the most part depending on the type of filament you're using. And that's the biggest downfall, is the tension on the filament is controlled by this door. All the gears are on one shaft. So if you have filament that might be a little thicker than the others or a little thinner than the others, it's going to grind it or not be able to pull it at all when loading, causing load issues. And I have had hundreds of loading errors trying to dial in the MMU2. If you get a filament you like and that the MMU2 likes, you're going to have a ton of success. If not, a whole lot of failures. One good thing is this unit is quite a bit cheaper than the Palette 2, right around $350. It is designed to work directly with the Prusa Mark III. So out of the box, you would need a Prusa Mark III to get this to work. But the upside of that is it's completely open source, just like everything else at Prusa. And there is a fork of Marlin that allows you to use the MMU2 on any printer, although it's going to take some setup. And there's a look inside my MMU2 just to give you an idea of what we're working with here. You can see the 5 extruder gears, and you can see how extremely messy it is inside here with all these shavings. That's probably because I ran into a filament with just a little bit bigger than the others, and it ground through it. So it definitely has its challenges. Again, I have struggled greatly with both these units. On both of them, you're not going to be able to just open them up, plug them in, and have them start working first time out. It's just not there yet. But there are a couple of key items I would focus on when thinking about multi-material. 1 is waste object, 2, the software you're dealing with, 3, the spool management. That might sound funny, but it does become a concern, and price. So let's take a look at waste objects. So here's my multicolored Joe Prusa done on the Palette 2. He's looking pretty good, right? Well, this is the waste object that was created to create that model. Kinda ridiculous. And here's my mini Joe Telling on the Prusa MMU2. And here is his waste object. It's definitely better. Understand Joe Prusa was a little bit bigger than Joel here, but this object weighs a lot less than the palette object. This one's mostly hollow. So I think Prusa just has their software dialed in a little better than Mosaic does. And while we're on the topic of software, here's Mosaic's Canvas. It's currently a cloud-based offering. It is currently free of charge, but I don't know if that will stay that way. But here's the Joe Prusa model we were looking at. You can drop your files in here, it will upload it to the cloud, and then you can paint them over here with the colors. And then you can either upload this to 2 SD cards, it will break them out, one for the printer, one for the palette, or you can use a Raspberry Pi as a Canvas hub to separate those files for you. This software will directly load them to a Canvas hub if you link it. It still requires the internet and you're reliant on Mosaic. In my opinion, they still have a bit of work to do here, especially with these support objects. And then you have the software interface that's built into Prusa Slicer, previously Slick 3R. You can drop your multi-material objects in here. You can decide over here which one of the 5 filaments that you would like to use. And down below you can decide which extruder you'd like to use for which part of the model. This software is completely open source and free, available from Prusa, and it doesn't require you to be online to use it. This is going to pack everything into one G-code file that you run on your printer. You can even send it directly to your Octoprint from this menu. So if I had to pick one or the other, if I was going to use Canvas or Prusa Slicer to make my models, I'd definitely go with Prusa Slicer all day long. It's way more intuitive than Canvas is currently. But now let's talk about filament management for these units. I know it seems funny, but it is a concern. Prusa even released this buffer to try to help manage this kind of thing. With the Palette 2, it's no big deal because it's splicing filament. It's only pulling filament in and backing it out a very short distance. So any 4 spool holders you have will work just fine. It does come with a large spool holder that will hold 4 spools. So not a big deal here. But with the MMU2, it is a very big deal. You're taking filament from all the way on the end of this tube, running it through your MMU2 unit down to your extruder. So when you're done using that filament and you're going to switch to another one, you have to back that filament out all the way back to the MMU2 unit. It will set inside here, but then you're going to have slack that's being backfed to the spool. And that can cause a whole list of issues. Now Prusa's tried to combat this a couple of ways. One, you have the buffer. The buffer keeps the filament in its own lane so it doesn't step on each other and get caught while you're feeding the MMU2 unit, but that really doesn't do anything for the back feeding of the spool. It's still pretty rigid inside this buffer. This also takes up a lot of space. It's kind of a pain to build, and in my opinion, is worthless. They've also come up with these vacuum formed trays that have a couple of bearings and rods that the spool sets on, and then there's a little arm that sets here that will open and close and allow that filament to come back, but it only works about half the time and it puts way too much drag on the filament, and that will cause a lot of issues with the MMU2. So far for the MMU2, this is the best way that I've found to handle your spools. It's an auto rewinding spool holder available from the community. I have modified this some to have a connector down here to connect directly into the back of the MMU tube. Some of them have arms or a little bit different setup, but this works best for me. So as you're pulling filament out and you're using it, everything's fine, it comes off as expected. But then when you're done with this filament and you're ready to put it back on the spool, you feed back in, it puts it right back on the spool, and you don't have to mess with unmanaged filament that might come off the side of the spool or get tangled with any of the other filaments that you're using at the same time. And imagine you have 5 of these in the back of the unit. That's a lot of space. Also, you have to print 5 of these auto winder setups. And these are available from the community, not provided by Prusa. That can leave a bad taste in people's mouths. And then you have price. You have the Palette 2 that's around $600. The Palette Pro is even more expensive than that, but it should work on any 3D printer if you can get it calibrated correctly. And then you have the MMU2. It's only $350, but you're adding that on top of a Prusa Mark III that costs $750 as kit form. So that's even more expensive than the Palette. And both of these solutions still need more bake time. They are definitely not solutions you can pull out of the box and just start using, and they work flawlessly every time. But that's exactly how 3D printing was at the beginning. So why don't we see the continued ramp up of multi-material models or multi-material units? Well, I think it's all of the issues that we've already talked about. Though waste object is a killer, I think the software is just now getting to where it needs to be able to make multi-material objects easier to create. And then there's the price. You have to go buy a 3D printer and then dump some more money on top of that and suffer all of the growing pains of these technologies too. I don't think it checks enough boxes for the consumer to make it a feasible solution for now. A big thanks to my Patreon supporters. These videos are just for you, and I'll see you on the next coffee break.